girl had personality, she had hope, she had dreams, she had aspirations. She really deserved to be heard, and the court process completely obliterated her voice. And now she's gone, and so, my role is I'm going to try to be her voice.
That Jennifer Kagan is able to speak at all is striking. She just lost her 4-year-old daughter, Keira. But she and her husband, Kagan-Viater, are determined to tell the story of a justice system that failed to protect her.
All of this comes from a place of immense love, of grief, of having, fought so hard for this child over the past 4 years just so that she could live a good life.
We don't want this to happen to another child. If she dies in vain, she's just another dead child. But if this is seen for what it is, and what we know it is, maybe her death will have at least some sense of meaning for other children and for our justice system as a whole.
Keira and her biological father, Robin Brown, were found dead at the bottom of a cliff in a conservation area west of Toronto in February. Police are still investigating, but Philip and Jennifer are convinced it was no accident, but a deliberate act by a disturbed man, empowered by a family court system that enabled him.
I believe this was preventable. He did the ultimate, the unthinkable, the worst possible thing, which was to remove her from this world completely, and thus leaving me to bear this pain for the rest of my days.
There were warning signs. Just before Keira was born, Jennifer says her ex-husband forced her to watch him kill a litter of newborn bunnies in their backyard.
He physically restrained me and held me as he forced me to watch him kill these animals.
Other times, he turned on her.
There was an incident where one of the dogs brought in a mouse, and in a fit of rage, he took the mouse from the mouth of the dog and he went and he shoved it in my mouth.
The abuse escalated, so did the deception. Jennifer, a doctor, found out her ex-husband had lied about going to a prestigious university and was leading a double life. A year after Keira was born, she fled, only to become trapped in a dangerous custody case.
There were clear red flags in terms of the abuse, the pathological lying, and that was all just completely ignored and deemed to be irrelevant to parenting, when in reality I'm of the view that it is very relevant to parenting, that if someone has a history of abusive behavior towards one spouse, what can happen is they can then use the child as a tool by which to harm their ex-partner. And that's exactly what happened in this case. Keira was a means by which to get at me, to get his claws into me, to harm me, to cause me as much emotional strife as possible. And he knew very well how to do that.
It may seem shocking, but family court often operates on the premise an abusive ex-spouse can still be a good parent. Jennifer's ex-husband was granted liberal, unsupervised access to Keira on weekends and holidays. How do you feel trapped in this legal arrangement?
It's a terrible feeling. You feel very helpless, you feel very powerless.
I like all the dark colors except dark red and dark blue.
Once in her father's care, Jennifer says her daughter became a target of repeated emotional abuse. Court-mandated calls from Jennifer checking in were ignored, and when Keira came back, she would unravel.
She would come home, there would be episodes of inconsolable crying, throwing herself down on the floor, saying awful things to me that she'd heard from her dad.
Like what?
I hate you, you're bad, Mommy. When I was pregnant with our son, she said to me, Dad says you have something in your stomach that makes you say and do bad things.
Then we go to Justice Charney.
Jennifer and Philip sought court order after court order.
This is the binder of court orders.
A family lawyer himself, Philip has never seen a case like it.
There are 53 court orders in a span of about 3 years, which is almost unheard of.
According to court documents, Keira's father was reprimanded for violating court orders, for repeated lying, and for attempts to defraud the court. There were a lot of warnings, but little action.
It always came down to the same question with the judges, with the social workers. Does he physically harm her And my answer, and Jennifer's answer, was always the same: not yet. They didn't treat emotional and psychological harm as the red flag that it was.
It doesn't have to come to this. Like, it doesn't have to come to a point of a child losing their life for us to say that the system needs change.
Deepa Matu runs the Barbara Schleifer Commemorative Clinic, a legal resource for survivors of domestic violence. She says family court judges who believe spousal abuse is a separate issue put children at risk.
The research says that if a woman is experiencing abuse, her children, the chance of them experiencing abuse is as high as 40%. Has your ex-partner physically assaulted you?
To identify potential victims, Deepa is working on a domestic violence screening tool.
Has your ex-partner ever threatened or tried to take children away or child away?
She wants it to be used by all family court judges.
At least it will give our system an opportunity to pause.
Do you think it could save lives?
It can save lives, absolutely. I think any kind of disruption to the cycle of violence can save lives. Sometimes it just needs to be someone doing that extra check-in on the situation.
Do you want another one in this hand? There you go.
But that didn't happen for Jennifer. And after her son with Philip was born, her ex-husband's behavior became even more alarming. The second to last visit he had with Keira, he refused to return her to her mother. The police intervened and Jennifer went to court pleading for an emergency motion to restrict his access. Days before a judgment was expected, Keira was dead. It was over.
It wasn't about me, you know, it really was about her having the best possible life that she could have, and I would have done absolutely anything to ensure that for her. Unfortunately, I was not able to ensure that she had a long life ahead of her, but she drives me in you know, at all times now.
We have to put it together because that's the only way that we think change may be enacted. We did everything imaginable. We brought motions when we needed to bring them. We got court orders after court orders, and the money wasn't an issue for us, and we still couldn't save this child. If we can't do it, imagine a person who doesn't even have our resources. They're not saving their child. And I could tell you, even from experience, I know a lot of people who have complained after getting final orders that their child is suffering harm. Maybe not catastrophic harm, death, like in our case, but psychological harm, and I believe it. I believe it because of the way the court system currently is.
Keira's grave has just been marked. Their grief is still so bitter and raw.
Every day is hard. Every day is painful. You know, there's nothing easy about this.
But to save another child, they say they'll keep speaking for the little girl who can't anymore. Joanna Remiliotis, CBC News, Thornhill, Ontario.